And we are back here, Dave Simon with you, with the hardcore legend, Mick Foley. He will be right here in Montreal at the Comic-Con on Saturday at 1 p.m. for autographs and photos, and then 7 p.m. to see the hardcore legend himself in a comedy show, which I have seen before. It is fantastic, something you do not want to miss this Saturday at the Montreal Comic-Con at Palais des Congrès. Mick, welcome back to the show. It's very, very good to talk to you.
Well, hey, I appreciate that. Were you able to see one of my shows, Just for Laughs, last year?
Yes, I was. You were actually in studio with us for about an hour, and then I was able...
Yeah, me and Brendan. All right, yeah. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys having me back. I apologize for a couple things. First of all, for being late on this call, and second, for the fact that my phone could die at any minute. So we better get right to the plugging.
Yeah, of course. And, of course, you are the king of plugs, the Comic-Con. And it was great seeing you last year. I know you had a good time with my friend, the Green Phantom, going to see the Muppets. And, yeah, you actually saw my brother at Disneyland as well,
right.
man.
Yeah, I sure did. Yeah, I tried to take in as much as I could last year, Just for Laughs. And that was really a turning point for me, that festival. Because, as you remember, I had Brendan Burns with me, who's an incredibly respected comic. Won the Edinburgh Award a few years ago. It's kind of like a Golden Globe for comics. And he was the one that convinced me that I did a wrestling show. I really, really used to take pride in how much non-wrestling material I could do. And then I realized, wait a second, now I'm kind of like Mick Jagger on a solo tour, refusing to play Stones tunes. So I will. I'm proud to say that it's a show based around the stories from my wrestling career. It will be funny. You can attest. The stories are funny, but I'm not going to venture off into areas that people are not interested in.
And I loved it. And if you are a wrestling fan, you definitely want to see this. You tell wrestling stories, and it's a lot of fun, and it's very funny. I recently saw, or actually heard on Colt Cabana's podcast, that he went out with Brendan Burns and did some comedy as well. I mean, He
did, yeah. He was part of Brendan's show, and I did some shows with Colt like 4 years ago. As a matter of fact, I'm in Providence, Rhode Island tonight, and Colt did Providence with me almost 4 years ago, and which was the site of one of the best times I've had, one of the best lines. I can't repeat it. I think it would get you fired and me fined. But it was one of those colorful off the cuff moments, and it was so good that we ended up using it, as if it was an ad lib from then on. And I just want to point out to people who are listening that you did see the show last year. It'll be a completely different show this year. So if you've been there and seen it before, don't let that stop you, please, from coming out again.
You're getting to be like Louis C.K. doing a new hour every year, Mick.
Well, you know what? Louis C.K. is a great example. He takes a lot of pride in that. I will go back occasionally. Like when I was in Montreal last year, I broke out the Al Snow suplex story because it was in Montreal. It didn't matter that I had, told the story a few years earlier. So I can go back to other things. I won't completely eliminate it, but I try to come up with new stuff so that people don't look at me and see a guy who's going through the motions. I think one thing they take away from it is that, wow, he really has fun up there, and I do.
Which is a lot like your pro wrestling career. I mean, when you watched a Mick Foley match, you never knew what you were going to get, and it wasn't the same. It wasn't a routine. There was always something different in your matches, and you keep it fresh and entertaining, and I think that you've taken that into your comedy.
I tried. I remember one time Brickhouse Brown, who's a veteran wrestler, especially of the southern U.S. scene, he had said, he was a guy who'd been around like 15 years at that time. He was like, there's just something about your matches. You look like you're having fun. And I think that's really important. That was always something I had going for me. And I was always trying to think of different things to do or different ways, even if I only had a limited arsenal of moves. And it was very limited. I could find ways to mix them up so it never looked like I was, like I said, going through a routine.
Now, Mick, I know you have limited time here, and I want to get to some professional wrestling questions or things that people want to know. And I think first off is recently SummerSlam weekend, you were sitting right next to the Nature Boy in what has now become a legendary appearance during that WWE 2K14 panel.
And this is the part of the interview where I'm probably going to dance around the questions. A, because my pizza just came. B, because my phone's about to die. And C, I don't know how much of that I'm supposed to talk about. I will. This is what I will say. The following night, I had a show at the Improv in Los Angeles where I had a few of the guys come up on stage for the Q&A part of the show. And I always love doing that, especially in the town. You know, after SummerSlam, you know, Regal got up there, and Regal has great stories, and Hornswoggle was there, and Candice Michelle joined us, Lillian Garcia. If Rick had come on stage at the Improv and told the same stories, it would have been amazing. But apparently, it may not have been the right venue for Rick's stories. That's all I'm going to say.
Right.
Is I don't know the situation, and all I'm going to say is it was really enjoyable. But I heard that some people were not pleased.
I saw it. It was tremendously entertaining. I would encourage Ric Flair to go out. You know, I mean, you've seen Mike Tyson and do his one-man show and have so much success.
Oh, no question. You know, one thing you're seeing, and I don't want to ruin the market for me, but it's the same thing with books where people are going, wait a second, he was able to write his own book? Like, I guess it can't be that hard. Every wrestler's got stories, you know. I told Regal's such a student of English comedy. I said, you got a show, you know, you could just structure a little bit. And Dolph Ziggler is a huge student of comedy and a real perfectionist. He came on and did a little bit of time at my LA show too. So I would say, yeah, a couple of years from now, the market will be so flooded with wrestlers, and I'll be the guy responsible for some of these. So let's go. The good and the bad, just like the books. Listen, man, I wish I didn't have to cut it short. I really appreciate the time you gave me yesterday, but I've got, and this, I'm not making this up.
Yeah,
I've got an appointment with one of the top theatrical wig makers in the country.
All right.
And I've got to be the best darn Santa Claus I can be, okay?
All right.
So I'll see you at the show. Thanks for the time, and hopefully people on the fence will take your word for it that it's a show worth investigating.
There you go. The hardcore legend, Mick Foley. Mick, thank you for your time, and we'll see you here in Montreal.
You got it. Bye.